I'm the member of the Paris Committee on Capacity Building, and I'm happy to welcome the next event, which is about the disaster risk management in Africa. And I invite Papatsumana Kiara to give this presentation. So Papatsumana, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Welcome to this presentation on African risk capacity, particularly the capacity building component of this insurance mechanism. So for so long, Africa has been plagued by crisis after crisis, and even in the recent year, we have seen events that really affected the population of the continent, and with deficit of rainfall. And of course, as a consequence, we could see the livelihood of the population are lost. Children are taken out of school, assets are depleted, and plunging the population really into misery. So with the modern technology, most of the weather events, although uncertain in terms of the timing and the magnitude, are predictable. So, and if we look at really the agricultural production and the rangeland availability in most of the African continent are affected by natural availability, variability, and it is likely that in the future, those livelihood will be significantly compromised with the climate change, and which means really more incidents in terms of drought event in the population, erratic rainfall, and also damaging high temperature. So to deal with this situation, of course, most of the African nations, they rely or they seek for international community to respond to this catastrophe event. Or some of the cases, they have to scramble with their budget, which is allocated most of the time to development projects, so to try to deal with this situation. So if we look at really this is a kind of ad hoc base of dealing with a disaster, and definitely that impacts the fiscal space of those member states. So based on this situation, the African Union member states have decided really to create an institution that can really respond to in an efficient manner to this situation. So this is how the agency called African Risk Capacity, which is a specialized agency of African Union, has been established. So with a key objective, first provide a quick disbursing fund after an event occurs, enable the member state to provide a timely response, reduce the risk management cost by pulling together, and also capitalizing the diversification across the continent, help countries to develop effective response plan for ill action that can really prevent negative coping strategy among the population that are affected, and reduce, of course, the impact of drought by increasing, the effectiveness of external assistance, which will come later on to complement the early action. So, and of course, for the establishment of this institution, it has to go through a kind of development process. So since 2010, when the resolution for putting in place such financial facility was adopted by the leader of the continent. So over the years, in 2012, particularly in November, where ARC was effectively established through a treaty. And that was done with the participation of many African nations to that event. And by 2013, the first meeting, Conference of Parties, was held, first in Senegal, and the second one was held in Nairobi, Kenya. So African risk capacity is a kind of two-tiered structure. The ARC agency, which is the specialized agency of African Union, with a role to carry out government-related function. So it's also manage the member state by providing, guidelines, oversight, and also carry out political engagement with the member state. Of course, through this engagement, you have all the capacity building work that's undertaken. And the insurance company, which we call ARC Limited, also play a crucial role in this mechanism by carrying out, the risk pooling and insurance function, consisting of taking out the premium, and if there is any disaster also, to proceed with the payment to the member state so that they can provide assistance to the population affected. And this ARC Limited structure is owned by the member state and capital contributor, which are the partners that also provide the capital for the functioning of the institution. And it's governed by a board of insurance experts. So, ARC, to really improve natural disaster risk management across the continent, bring together three critical elements which create a powerful, really value proposition for its participants, namely the member state. So we have the early warning system, which is made up of a software called Africa Risk View. We have the response mechanism, which is the contingency plan that allows countries to be well prepared ahead of an event and to provide efficiently the response to the population affected, and the insurance component, which is index-based insurance and also providing a contingency fund for the functioning of operational plan. So as a result, we say $1 spent on drought response through a mechanism such African risk capacity can save $4.4 in traditional humanitarian assistance, which is ex-post aid. So ARC program cycle phases is around those four elements. First, the pre-engagement phase we do with the member state, the capacity building phase, the insurance coverage phase, and at the end, the post-insurance coverage phase. So the first step is the African Union member state become members of ARC agency through signing the establishment treaty. So that's the first step. The second step is the agreement on memorandum of understanding to implement the ARC capacity building program in the country. Before signing that, upon request of the member state, ARC conducts a kind of scoping mission in the country to present the program, and then ultimately proceeding with the signature of this memorandum of understanding, which will lead to the work program that will be implemented in the country. So, in each country, ARC established what we call the technical working group in order to implement the program of work. So, and this is really pluridisciplinary and multi-sectorial approach with different government institutions and a variety of expertise within the country to be able to conduct all the program of work in this designated country. So with that also you have a partner, those are in those countries to help them implement those activities. And really this is very important because we are seeking for ownership. Unlike other programs, in this case, the country is a country-driven process because country institutions and experts are involved in doing all the work streams that are implemented in their own country. So also is a way to break a silo that exists most of the cases, in different countries, between different institutions. So this program is sitting within one of the key ministers involved in disaster risk management. It can be the finance minister, agriculture ministry, or disaster management ministry. So it depends on the country context. So as I mentioned, there are 3 work streams around which ARC capacity building program is conducted. And the first one is Africa Risk View. So Africa Risk View per se is a drought risk modeling platform that allows countries to monitor and analyze the rainfall, to follow the progression of agriculture season, which is supposed to be ensured in a given time, estimate the impact of drought on vulnerable population, also calculate the associated cost of a given event. So of course, this will allow the participation of the member state into the pool, establishing or defining transparent criteria for this purpose. And this is done through the 3 interface, the 4 interface you can see here. So in this process, the country needs really to quantify the risk is willing to transfer to the mechanism such as ARC, which is really better equipped to handle this kind of a matter. So first of all, the rainfall component, which is one of the key elements in this process, is downloaded into Pixel, Pixel, which is 10 kilometers by 10, using different sources such as RFE2, TAMSAT, ARC2. And then those satellite data are downloaded or converted into what we call a drought index, namely water requirement satisfaction index. So, and this index is customized at country level during the period of a 12-month capacity building by country expert, so that they can really reach the highest accuracy as much as possible. Because it's very important, those information, is the model. So the quality of data you are inputting is very important because it will influence the outcome of the model. So, and then the drought index is overlaid with what we call the vulnerability information, which vulnerability information is extracted from different assessments conducted at country level or other existing sources that can really inform this process. Of course, the combination of those components, the drought and the vulnerability, will help to model the impact of the drought, which is translated in terms of the number of population affected by the event. Basically, the fluctuation of the rainfall, which is really, as I explained earlier, one of the variable or dynamic component within this system. So this, at the end, is translated also in a response cost, because how it works is that the number of people affected associated with a certain cost, which is used to assist the population. So it will give an idea, with a given event, as you can see with the graphic, this is the number of people affected by a specific event multiplied by the response cost, how much it costs to assist that person during an event occurring in this country. So you can see those bars and the highest, maybe that represents one of the most severe events occurred in a country. And this one you can see the number of people affected was very high, and also the cost. So having done this kind of analysis quantification, and the country then can transfer the portion of risk is not able to handle himself or to self-cover. So as you can see here, the rainfall component across Africa, using the satellite rainfall estimate to monitor the progress of the season across the continent. And as I say, it's the only dynamic input data in the model that's more transparent and objective, as opposed to country weather station, which might not be as consistent as we wish for such a modeling process. So the satellite data is the common data used for that and is accepted by everybody. So for the drought index, as you can see, this is based on the plant. We are talking about agriculture here, and it's the impact of the rainfall on the agriculture, the crop growth. So here we are using the water requirement certification index, as I say, which per se is the model, water balance model. So water balance model is a model that has been used for like 30 years, to monitor the season everywhere. And is a model that was developed by United Nations Food Agriculture Organization. And then the comparison is done through the season for each location, allowing a real-time monitoring of the season. So, and that follows the phenological, phase of the plant. What are the requirements for a crop, at certain stage of its growth, the sowing window, the maturity, etc., until the harvest period. So the drought impact is basically looking at the degree of dryness, so which is translated in terms of population affected really by the rainfall deficit. So two main considerations are taken into account here: the degree of reliance on the weather-dependent income, such as agriculture. Because here we are looking at the exposure. The people in Africa that depend largely on agriculture production. And agriculture production is also dependent on the rainfall. So if there is a deficit of rainfall, so we can see people who largely depend on this activity, how much they can be affected. And so this is overlaid with what we call the poverty level. So the poverty level, depending on each country, it can be set at certain percentage, like a 12%. So more you are far from this line, so more resilient you will be to this any kind of disaster happening. So it's a combination of those information really that determine the vulnerability component of this model. Another component, workstream, which is also important, is the contingency planning. So the contingency planning is a preparedness work. Country participating in this process, if they receive any payout, they have to make a good use of this in effective and efficient manner. So which means reaching quickly the population with this early funding they are receiving. And it's a prerequisite for the participation of a country into the process. So which allow them to identify what kind of activity can be implemented and really actioned and early action. Be established in advance, before even the participation of the member states into the process. And it's done in an inclusive manner. It's a kind of consultative process, as I mentioned, between different stakeholders that are really involved in disaster management in the country. Of course, if the payout is not used efficiently, the country can really lose the benefit of having this kind of a mechanism in place, because you pay a premium to really move from ex-post disaster risk financing to ex-ante, which means receiving early fund to provide early action. So a typical example of the contingency plan or the type of activity that really is required for the use of the payout can be any existing social safety net. So whereby if there is any event occurring and people are affected, and when you receive a payout, how can you scale up one of those activities to reach quickly the population? So it can be like increasing the benefit you are giving to the population or the number of people that are affected. Namely, you can call it, poverty transitory population that you can cover also if the fund will receive quickly. And the last component, which is very important, and is what we call the risk transfer. So going through all this process, at some point, the country has to decide, as I say earlier, how much, which portion of the risk is willing to transfer to the mechanism like ARC or any other institution working in this area. But for the case of ARC, this final step, the government will need really to go through and to determine if it wishes to join the risk pool, because the capacity building program doesn't lead necessary to taking the insurance. It's really based on informed decision. It's up to the government whether or not at the end of the process if they want to take out the insurance. So the government and then will need to select the level of risk they wish to transfer to ARC. So these parameters include, first, the level of risk the country wishes to transfer, like what we call it, the sum insured or the coverage amount, the frequency of the payout. So it's deciding, okay, the amount of risk the government would like to retain and the portion is willing to transfer, which is beyond its financial capacity. And of course, those parameters will be driven by the type of coverage the government experts and the partner working with them, believe will best meet the country need and the premium available for the transaction. It's like when you are insuring your car, you look at how much really you are willing to pay as a premium for a coverage you are willing to take. So this is translated. This is an illustration of how it works, whereby you can see the attachment point. As I mentioned earlier, the attachment point is the loss value at which the insurance policy begins to pay out, and the exhaustion point, which is the level at which the maximum payout under the policy is paid. So you can see that this insurance mechanism is not a panacea. Just allow the country really to fill the gap, where the country can retain certain portion of its risk, and also for extreme event, very extreme event, where you have other partner, like a donor comes in to provide assistance somehow. But in the middle, this is where the country really requires such coverage for early action, and which will, of course, prevent the asset depletion at community level or the loss of the livelihood. So the maximum coverage, for instance, we are proposing, which is negotiable, of course, is 30 million. So 30 million is the maximum coverage. So on top of all those capacity building work conducted at country level, we have also the institutional strengthening, which consists of really providing, doing a kind of lobbying and advocacy in terms of transformational thinking that recognize really the importance of preference and pre-disaster risk response plan in a cross-collaborative way. So transitioning the broader disaster risk layering and financing tool application, there is a technical support, of course, through the mechanism, particularly the tool Africa Risk View, that has been contextualized in some of the cases. Breaking the silo, as explained, which consists of increasing cross-collaboration across in-country technical working group members. Place the government also at the center of response coordination. That's very important. Most of the time, the government is really at backseat, but with this mechanism, the government is taking the leadership in the coordination of the disaster response mechanism in the country, which is very important because it can lead to more efficiency and effectiveness in the implementation of the response. of course, urging also the government investment in food security and agricultural production in general. So the step 3, that's related to the contingency plan mechanism, whereby the TRC, which is the Technical Review Committee, and the Board of Art Agency review the contingency plan that's developed by the member state. So, and that will lead to the issuance of what we call the certificate of good standing, allowing the member state now to be part of the mechanism. So you can see there is a quality assurance process into this mechanism. It's not just preparing a document, but this document has to go through a kind of review process before it's approved and allowing them to participate in the mechanism. So once the certificate of good standing is issued, the step 4 will consist of signing the policy, and then the country will pay the premium and become a member of the Art Limited and Class A member, as we call it. And the step 5 is a seasonal performance monitoring. Once the insurance program, start with the software that can monitor the season, how it evolves. And if for any reason, there is a disruption of the rainfall, which can trigger the policy. In this case, there will be a payment to the country, disbursement. But prior to this disbursement, the country has to develop a refined document, which is called the final implementation plan, showing how the country can really utilize, again, in efficient manner and fast the payout they will receive into the government financial system. So as an example, many countries today have received a payout since the start of this mechanism. One of the typical example of a contingency plan document, which is made of operational plan and final implementation plan. For example, Malawi, the operational plan that was developed before the participation of the country into the process was made with some key activity the country really consider that can be actioned for early action. Namely, this is the unconditional cash transfer activity and targeted food activity. So once there was a likelihood of a payout toward the country, and they were asked to develop a final implementation plan, which was more contextualized with the food security information. So they come with other activity, which are subset of the activity that were selected in the operational plan, and it was namely the emergency cash transfer and also the replenishment of a strategic grain reserve. So you can see there is a linkage between the two documents, although it's flexible in somehow, because based on really the impact of the disaster and the need assessment, the document can modify to be implemented in an efficient manner. So the step 7 is providing the response and then monitoring the implementation of this response through what we call audit process, which is looking at the fidelity of the implementation of the plan and also the financial management the country undertook with the funds. So to summarize the process, as explained earlier, we have this pre-participation phase, which will consist to customize Africa Risk View, to prepare the contingency plan, and obtain the certificate of good standing. So the season starts, and they come to throw the software which is provided to them. They can monitor the season, from the start date to end of the season. And in case there is any disaster, as I mentioned, the country is asked to develop a final implementation plan for the use of the payout after the crop failure, of course. And then the response is provided to the community. So this is how the mechanism, in a nutshell.